The beacons are lit. Skallagrim calls for aid with I could use your help. Ellipses. That's how you know he's serious. By Skallagrim.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to listen to the ramblings of an eccentric, bumbling fool.
Always.
First off, don't worry, this is not a matter of life or death. It's not like I need money for crucial surgery or anything like that. There is a surgery that I'm pretty sure I need, but healthcare would cover that.
Sure.
However, I could use your help in a number of ways. One being, I need you to tell me what you want. What I mean? Well, you would think.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really want. I literally couldn't resist. Like, the urge to shitpost just came up from deep inside me. I had to. I'm contractually obligated to shitpost. Sorry, continue.
After doing this for 16 years, I've got a handle on how this YouTube thing works. You'd think so.
Yeah.
Reasonable assumption, right?
Yeah.
But the kind of video and topic that used to get at least 100,000 views, often more, now tends to be stuck at 20, 30, 40, something like that. Which is still a lot, don't get me wrong. That's a lot of people watching my stuff. And there are plenty of small channels that would be ecstatic to get those numbers. I'm well aware of that.
Dude, I'm so happy when I get like 2K views, if I'm being completely honest. That's not to demean his point. Like, I like where he's going with this, and I think he is noticing a trend. I know before the whole completionist thing happened in regards to what Open Hand Foundation, alleged botching of accounting, certain things potentially being not reported as they were, allegedly, of course. Just making sure I say that. I mean, that was one thing that he noted as far as a couple of years ago. Just like January happened and suddenly things shifted. I do know that Shadiversity, I guess, uploaded a video recently in regards to sword content's not popular anymore. I do disagree. I'm going to let him explain and extrapolate his points because I've actually thought about this. Not necessarily at length, but I've thought about this and I've kind of pondered this.
But as we're kind of indoctrinated into this idea of perpetual growth.
Right.
You know, like if this was where I peaked, then I'd be happy. And if it was still slowly going up, but
Sure.
you know, that it used to be way higher and now it keeps going down and down and down and down and down. You know, it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong. It makes you feel like no matter what you do, no matter what improvements you try to make, you're looking at my own work. I do think it's gotten a lot better. Like the editing has gotten way better. Maybe not in this video in particular, but overall, I'm putting way more effort into things for, you know, a much worse result, which makes me wonder, like, what the hell am I doing? It's not that I don't have ideas. I have a very, very long list of video ideas. It's just like I feel they're not good enough. None of it is good enough. That's what it feels like, which may or may not be true, but yeah. When I look at how things have been going, people often tell me, just make what you enjoy, which, you know, I appreciate the sentiment. Everything I do, I want to do. Exactly how much I enjoy making each individual video, of course, is a matter of degree. It does vary. But I can't say that the ones that I have the most fun with and I'm happiest with do the best. That would be too easy.
Yeah.
You may know your own behavior, like what you click on and whatnot, but you may not know the exact reasons and you may not know the deeper lore, mechanics of YouTube and all that. But, you know, just, I could do a poll, you know, ask you like, hey, what do you want to see more of? But that's still filtered by, you know, whatever I come up with as options. Instead, I would like you to tell me what you would like to see more of, what you enjoy the most, what maybe even specific videos you've enjoyed particularly, and other people upvote those so that it's not a poll exactly, but I can still look at the most upvoted comments. And
So what I would also recommend, because I wanted to very specifically react to this, because I rather enjoy Skallagrim's content. I enjoy what he does. I guess I'm kind of an older mentality when it comes to YouTube, as sure, there are some very like clicky, trendy things that people can click on, right? And there are certain things that you would want to watch, right? Absolutely. If random creator happens to put out a video and it's just like, oh yeah, my thoughts on Space Marine 2 or Resident Evil 4 or Diablo 2, right? Perfect example. Love Dark Lordash, actually. Love his Diablo content, but I don't really have any interaction, any point of reference for Legacy of Kain. But he loves it and has done videos on Legacy of Kain. But since I don't necessarily have the reference point for it, I'll just go back and I'll watch his Oblivion videos. I'll go back and I'll watch his Diablo 2 videos, and unfortunately just avoid the other videos he does, just because preference, right? And that being said, right, dear viewer, you might not like this video. You might not like some of the videos that I put out. You might not like Badger reactions. You might not like subscribe podcast reactions. And that's perfectly fine. That is subjective to each individual person, and they tailor their feed to match their individual interests. That's literally how that should work. So I'm from an older mentality where if somebody's just cool, or if I like somebody's content, I'll just watch them. Like Vinny Vinesauce, watched for a number of years. Sometimes, playing Missing Link, right? I watched that VOD multiple times. But sometimes if he'll play something I'm not necessarily into, I won't necessarily watch it. But I also will sometimes watch it just because I like what he does. Because I'll just watch it because I'm watching for the creator. I'm watching for that personality. I'm not necessarily watching because, well, I'm watching a Skallagrim video on the Nodachi, right? Sure, if I wanted to go in and get a crash course on the Nodachi, how it cuts, how it works, how it feels, right? What brand of Nodachi was used, sure, absolutely, you can go in and analyze it. I think that goes towards the more entertainment side of the spectrum versus informative, right? Not necessarily that you can't have both. I mean, that's why edutainment's been a meme for years, right? So I do, if you have recommendations or would like to go over recommendations that have already been submitted, I want to use this as a different access point to go to the original Skallagrim video. That way you're able to, if say you also like Skallagrim as much as I do, right, or more, obviously, you can kind of engage in some of this. Because I like what he does. I think we need more creators like Skallagrim, because he genuinely enjoys what he does. And absolutely, if you want to do something you enjoy, sure, but does that necessarily pay the bills? Like, I feel that's been vilified, but that is 100% something, right? Like, if you're a Diablo streamer and you stream Diablo 2 Resurrected, oh man, you get numbers, but you stream Diablo 4, even if you enjoy Diablo 4 and you don't get numbers, that is going to impact your decision. Like, it is okay to treat things like a business. For Maxor, right? Says he's not going to do an additional part to his Resident Evil 4 series. Sure, I can lament that all day, but honestly, like, if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. That's perfectly fine. I still watch Maxor because Maxor's great. He puts in a lot of work and he's really funny. Ambiguous. Never watched any of their RimWorld or Project Zomboid content, but started to watch his vids. It was purely first personality. Exactly. I feel like that's such a lost mentality at this point. I think a lot of people do it, absolutely, right? But I think that that's such a lost mentality when it's very go, 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 go. You have to intake content, right? I think we've gotten to the point where it's shifted from personality to specifically the content.
Get kind of an idea, hopefully. I've often seen feedback from people saying, oh, this is the kind of stuff they love, and then it's a video that got like 15,000 views or whatever. Like, okay,
right.
Yeah. As said, I'm grateful to be able to do this still. These are still pretty damn good numbers overall, but not quite enough to give me a good budget to work with. Right. Last year, at the beginning of last year, I set two goals. One being I wanted to increase the revenue, ad revenue and /or Patreon memberships, and maybe do more sponsorships and all that, to have more of a budget to work with so I can do cooler things, right? And the other goal was to fix myself and get back in shape and all that.
Right.
I failed both.
Good job.
Even though things were going well for a while and I lost 6 kilograms or 13, 14 pounds.
Nice.
Over the course of a few months. Then I acquired a new soft tissue injury, which is still plaguing me, and I put it all back on.
Yeah.
Yay, progress.
Really good job.
I made less last year still than the year before, which is largely due to basically not doing any sponsorships, other than the standard one, Forum, which I still enjoy working with. That's a really good one.
I mean, that's my big concern as well. I don't necessarily know his stance on sponsorships. If I don't trust in the product, if I don't believe in the company, if I even don't personally use it, I don't want to hawk a product, right? I don't want to hawk a product that I personally don't believe in or respect, right? If I have somebody message me like, "Hey Kip, do you want to invest in this coin?" I'm like, "Hey, you picked the wrong person for that, but I used to work in finance. I have been very transparent on my my views on crypto. Kindly, please do not message me again," right? I mean, there's things like that, but at the same time, there are companies I would absolutely work with towards a mutual mutual beneficial partnership. So I actually have a lot more respect for individuals and creators who don't necessarily go with any and all sponsorships that may come their way. The exception is kind of like Fat Electrician, because Fat Electrician has any sponsors, right? Even Brandon Herrera, right? But the difference is that they use the products, right? Like Fat Electrician uses the razor, right? Uses Delete Me, right? Brandon Herrera uses, as far as I'm aware, he's partnered with SDI.edu, and for all intents and purposes, as I understand it, he does still believe in SDI.edu. So, like, it's not wrong to have multiple partnerships or sponsors. It's not. I think that's been a big point of vilification. I feel as if you believe in the product, I think that's really all that matters. If you play Raid Shadow Legends, the funny, right? And you enjoy it, sure, why not? But if you're doing it to take a paycheck, I mean, sure, you absolutely get that bag. However, as a subjective thing for me personally, I couldn't do it. I couldn't hawk a product at people who watch me, people who engage with me, because I feel that undermines my own platform. I'm very cautious when it comes to who I want to do sponsorships.
That's about it. But the thing is, I don't regret it. I actually feel better about it because I don't like sponsorships. If it's something that I really stand behind, something that I use myself, and I'm, Thorum rings, it's good stuff.
Yeah, super.
That kind of thing. Or, working with Cult of Athena as an affiliate. That's all so great. But
Cult's great, spelled with a K. I've ordered a couple of their products. I've liked them from what little I've dealt with them.
There's that on the one end, and then on the other extreme end, there's the shady stuff.
Right.
Like there are some bullets that I dodge. Like, for example, you may have seen something about the honey scandal. Mm-hmm. They have reached out to me as well. Didn't want it. It seemed kind of not even really fishy. It just wasn't something that I cared much for. Mm-hmm. There are a few other examples as well of things that turned out to be kind of shady, and I dodged a bullet by turning it down, which I don't want to mention by name, but yeah, I've turned down so many things. I get plenty of sponsors.
I think that is the correct choice here, because, I mean, I could say, well, I applied for a sponsorship from this company, or I turned down from this company. I think it comes down to, like, not even necessarily a plausible deniability thing, but kind of a respect thing. Not even that you signed an NDA or anything like that, right? But it's just one of those things where you're like, the more vague and ambiguous you can be, generally the better. Because as soon as you say someone or something's name, that just kind of turns it into a different conversation. Such as, if I were to say something along the lines of, yeah, I kind of hate big corporate products, right? Versus, and this is just for the sake of this argument, if one were to say something along the lines of, yeah, I hate Walmart and Target, you see how that inherently becomes a different conversation, right? You see how once you name something or invoke something, it becomes a completely different, the tone shifts, right? If you say something along the lines of, yeah, no, I don't really like, I really don't like some VTubers, versus you're like, well, yeah, I really don't like that, insert VTuber name here, how it can be kind of seen as a personal attack, right? Generally, if you're doing something like that, you want to make sure you're bringing receipts, right? If you don't like, mentioned earlier, like Gerard Khalil, the completionist, especially after the Open Hand Foundation, and you're going to name him by name, you generally bring receipts for something like that, right? And you're like, okay, yeah, it's as it turns out, adults justify the decisions. I'm the weird one, okay? I paragraph at people. That's not normal. I had to have my parents just be like, Kip, that's not normal. People don't bring the HR conversation to the table with receipts and citations. And I'm like, wait, they don't? I'm the weird one. Don't get me wrong. But generally, you want to have some sort of justification, right? If it's like, well, why do you hate big corporate sponsorships? You just say, well, I hate big corporate sponsorships, okay? Grats, you've added nothing to this conversation. Why do you hate this? Well, I hate them for XYZ reasons. I think that they do this for the creator sphere. Personally, I just have a subjective bias against them. Wow, thank you for providing at least some sort of context for your reasoning. Wild, right?
Offers, and well-paying ones too. But I just look at that like, no, I don't want to sell my soul.
Right.
There is, between the extreme ends, there is the neutral ground, which is really fine. So that's stuff that is not shady. Like you look into it and it has positive reviews from other people and it seems legit, right. But you're just not that much into it personally. You're just like, yeah, I may not care that much about it, but somebody else might. But to me, it still feels a little bit icky. you know, like if it's not something that I enthusiastically support, then I don't want to do it, you know. But of course, again, that leaves me with less of a budget to work with. Plus, I don't like shilling my Patreon either. I really should.
I feel that, dude. I don't show my Patreon at all. Like, sometimes I'll post like 40K stuff I built on it, but that's about it. Like, it's an avenue, kind of like how I have Ko-fi, debated and opened up YouTube members. I just don't like hawking it. It's just, I don't know. It's not that it feels scummy by any means, right? I don't, that's not the intent behind that. It's like, I just don't like, it's just one of those, like, it's weird for me to talk about, hi, do you know Kip as a Patreon? Do you know Kip as a Ko-fi? I don't know, it's just weird to me. I can't get behind it. I do get behind him, just, yeah, nah, some of these sponsors just don't feel into it. And that's as much justification as you need, honestly. Like, sure, we can go deep into, like, well, this is why I don't like this is why I like this. Sure. Sometimes it can just be like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I just don't feel comfortable doing this. It's why I don't want to do sponsorships on React content. Because what if Skallagrim, for instance, didn't like insert restaurant here, and insert restaurant here paid me for a bit, and then I did an ad read for that restaurant in front of the video, right? Sure, I add a lot, don't get me wrong. I'm known for doubling, tripling, if not even 5xing a video, but I'm still using someone else's content for all intents and purposes, and I feel disingenuous if I had to put a sponsor on something like this. That just, it doesn't rub me the right way. So I can respect his viewpoint, and honestly, that speaks a lot to his integrity.
I should push it much more, because as it is, there aren't enough new people coming in to offset the ones who drop out. Right. So that also goes down over time. So here's my shameless self-promotion for the day. Sign up to my Patreon or you get the pummel. What would possibly motivate you to sign up for my Patreon or my YouTube memberships? If it's the same to you, I would suggest Patreon over memberships, but either way, particular rewards or particular price points, anything like that, do let me know. I totally understand if you can't or don't want to, because, I mean, even if it's just a couple of bucks a month, if you were to support every YouTuber that you like to watch, that would add up really quickly. So
I think he brings up a good point as well. So if the viewership remains the same here, we're taking this information in a vacuum, right? If the viewership remains the same and you have an outgoing amount of viewership, right? Does it necessarily make sense to repeat the same thing over and over to your audience, right? Do you think that might stress out your audience? As someone who's personally done this, right? As someone who will reiterate the same time same thing 4 times in a week, right? Maybe it's via a community post, whatever. At a certain point, you have to logically look at it and go, okay, is this, sure, absolutely, plugging your Patreon, like, hi, make sure to support me on Patreon, especially having a card at the end, right? Sure, awesome. But if it's like, if it's a community, say it's a community post every 2 days, right? And your viewership is roughly remaining the same, does it necessarily make sense to push that Patreon or post whatever if people are, if you have a static amount of people, right? Or is it necessarily going to be people look at it and go, oh, well, that's the same post I saw 2 days ago. Not saying that it's a bad thing to push your Patreon by any means. I think it is a concern, and one that I've noted, especially in my own work, where sometimes it's okay just to not say things, or sometimes it's okay to not engage in certain things, especially if it's reiterating not necessarily the same point, but one that is closely in line with that main point.
So I totally understand, which is why I don't like to ask for it. You know, I'm just like, yeah, here's the link, and if you like to sign up or whatever, you know, but it's just not really enough. Okay, what else? Here's something very specific. If anyone can send me a leather helmet for testing, that would be great. I mean, like a properly made, ideally hardened leather helmet, because that would be pretty interesting to try out. I could just order one from Calvino or whatever, but sure, those are unhardened and not super well made from what I can tell.
So I know I have SCA people watching me. Hey, SCA people, do you happen to know somebody? Because it sounds like Skallagrim needs a funny helmet. Pretty, seems pretty legit.
Historically accurate, well, it's a different story. Leather obviously isn't preserved very well, but I believe I've seen a couple of examples, or at least references, written sources referencing leather helmets. I don't quite remember the details, but either way, I got somewhere ahead, and
nice.
That would be good to test on one of these. You know, put it on put the helmet on and see what happens. Hopefully this one isn't damaged. No, that seems fine. The last one I got arrived damaged, but this is fine. If you've got a good leather helmet or can make one that you'd be willing to sacrifice for science, let me know. You can reach me via email in the About section on my channel page. Other than that, I suppose if you happen to be in Nova Scotia, not terribly far from Halifax, you could help out with videos, like if you've got a location where I could film, or if you've got things that I could use in videos, test out, or whatever, or if you're up for some hemo practice.
Dude, I would do this in a heartbeat, except I'm literally across the country in Idaho, okay? It's also unfortunate. I ended up dropping out of SCA recently, just due to time concerns, I'm kept fairly busy with just Kip Reacts alone, and I've been taking a little more time for myself, so that's why I haven't really been doing much else, including streaming. Just kind of been taking time to actually kind of reset after just the stress of the entire last year, just from a work standpoint, right? So, yeah, I would just do this for free. Unfortunately, I am all the way across the country. So, I am with you in spirit.
Let me know. I guess I'm going to have to transition to being left-handed at this point, because every time I do anything, even if the arm seems fine, like if the elbow seems like it's recovered, every time I do cutting or hemo practice, anything, it immediately gets worse again. And it's clear that this particular movement pattern, what caused the injury to begin with, is what keeps aggravating it. Yeah, no.
So what are you using specifically? Are we talking longsword? Do you think rapier would fix that? I mean, I'm sure he's already considered other options, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the nature of the injury. It is not necessarily my place to pry, nor it's not my place. In regards to something like that, the person I used to spar with had something, his knee, right? His knee could get worn pretty easily. And he dual wielded, which was, God, that was fun. Oh, I love fighting dual wielding rapiers. They're wild. And so he would either have to limit his time or he'd have to just, catch himself before his knee got too bad in a practice. But I'm sure he's already thought of all of this. One of those just the person in me who's just like, I wish to help. I wish to think of things, except that I don't really add anything to the conversation because I'm sure all the things and more have already been thought of. So it ends up being kind of a nothing burger. The desire to help is there though. Yeah, it's not fun when it's like, oh God, what was it? Every time I put on my armor, I just get sick because just it weighs so much. I'm not conditioned to armor, which the fix to that is wearing something like chainmail over an extended period of time, which I need a chainmail shirt. I know I need to get. It's like $600 and I can just get a decent one. Just one of those I have to actually save up for. But yeah, one of those things where it just makes me upset because I actually really like wearing my armor or my new gauntlets. They actually tore a hole in the skin above my knuckle. It was pretty rough. I don't know how to move the plate, and it's one of those. I like them. I like my new gauntlets, but they physically hurt.
Big surprise, right? If you're a competent ripper doc who can replace my entire arm with one that actually works, that would be great too. And my right knee, and both shoulders, and my left ankle, and just replace most of it. Yeah. Anyway, so if you've got any suggestions and constructive criticism for how to make videos better and optimize the channel and this and that and the other, I would appreciate it. I've had editors reach out to me as well, but I just can't justify the expense right now. If I could double my Patreon income, I could do it, but I don't really see that happening anytime soon. Yeah, let's leave it at that. There's too much blah blah already. So thanks for making it through. I appreciate you being here, and let's hope this year goes a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. Kind of where I'm at. Excellent video. I absolutely love this. So, in regards to sword content, because as mentioned earlier, someone else was like, yeah, sword content kind of dead. I think that, well, there might be some YouTube algorithm shenanigans. I don't know anything, obviously. I can't confirm anything, right? Or really deny anything, because I don't have any knowledge of it. It would make sense, especially going from past creators in regards to, yeah, just the start of the year happened, and then this kind of just changed and shifted. So there is that to consider. I know shorts have done pretty well. I know Skallagrim does do a lot of shorts. Let me go to his channel really quick. He does have He has community. I think using the community post function might work a little more, even if it's just like a sword fact of the day or something like that. Any sort of, I think what I do is a little excessive, right? I post stuff that definitely should be on my community tab. Community tab, honestly, pretty well. I like it for engagement, even if it's polls, even if it's like, "Hi, I tested out this sword today," or "Yeah, hey, I'm looking at this by Darkwood Armory. I'm looking at this Darkwood Armory Rapier. What are you guys' thoughts on this? You guys, or hey, I'm going up to this HEMA tournament and I'm feeling a little social." So definitely using community tab, I feel could work pretty well. Clearly, he has playlists in regards to live. I actually didn't know he streamed. Push that you live stream, right? Push that you stream. I don't know if it's necessarily on Twitch or if it's on YouTube. Assuming YouTube, since they're backlogged here because it says streamed. Yeah, so I'm assuming he streams on YouTube. Definitely push that a little more. I think that could go pretty hard. Shorts as well, right? I mean, 100K, 102, 366. I think that especially with the advent of TikTok, I think that content like swords, I think are, because there's the guy, I always forget his, what is it? So there's a few guys that I like, right? Is it Hammer, that dude? I always forget his name. I'm subscribed to him. I'm really upset because I always forget his name. I think it's like Tank Tolman or something like that. Love that man. I mean, he has his, not only does he do, you know, cool things, some sword things, but he also has his motivational bits. If that's something up Skallagrim's alley, you know, adding to that more personability. I think short form content is pretty good. What is it? The sword guys, a number of other people who do TikTok content. I think that sword content has kind of shifted to that, especially with shorts going to a full 3 minutes potentially. Even though it doesn't necessarily generate revenue, I think that capitalizing on shorts, which Skallagrim is doing, right? Is he not? Capitalizing on shorts is fantastic. I think it could also be supplemental in regards to just what he's doing already, right? Because I mean, he makes quality work. Whenever I'm thinking of swords, or if I see something really cool, I do look at Skallagrim because I mean, I think he's incredibly well researched. I think that he's well read. I think that he just puts out great content and he's rather personable. The other thing potentially as well, I would say, potentially doing a podcast. I know a lot of people can and will default to podcasts. Obviously, like how in the video it was pretty echoey, but that's just the room he's in, right? Not necessarily that you have to audio treat it, right? I mean, I'm running outboard gear. I'm running a, what is that? Focusrite, some sort of Focusrite outboard gear. With a studio mic. I still need like $3,000 in actual audio equipment, if I'm being completely honest. That's going to be a next couple year project. But like, if you have somebody or people who are willing to do that podcast, I think podcasts could do numbers. I don't know. Like, there's a number of things there. Those are like random submissions, gesturing wildly, like pushing, right? Those are some submissions. I absolutely would recommend definitely go checking out the original video, which is linked down in the description for your convenience, so that you can get in on that conversation. And I hope that this is a decent enough submission, because I like what Skallagrim does, and it seems like the YouTube algorithm just has a lot of issues with this kind of content. And I know there's interest in this kind of content. There's a VTuber I talked with, you know, was like, hey, have you considered doing Renaissance stuff? And they were just like, yeah, I have no clue how to get started on that. So path to Swordmaster, path to TGS Anime, right? Has this whole, does he have a second channel where he like bodybuilds and stuff? Like, dude plays Yu-Gi-Oh! And is jacked, right? I mean, you can just have that, right? I think building that personability might be where it's at. I could see that doing numbers, but it ultimately depends what Skallagrim has access to, what Skallagrim is able to. I'm obviously busy with Kip Reacts, and that takes up a lot of my time. I would love to do other projects, but God, it just takes up so much time. So hopefully in more or less words, unfortunately more words, this gets my point across. And I want to make sure I'm supporting Skallagrim in what ways I can, because I think he's a super cool dude. And I would love him to be just, you know, completely succeed. I think that he could reasonably get 500,000 to 1 million views a video. Absolutely. I think that he has the personality. I think that he's able to level with enough people. I think that he has the skill set and the learn set to be able to do stuff like that. So it's just a matter of how do you work with YouTube? How do you adapt, overcome, right? That kind of thing. So thank you everyone for watching. I really do appreciate it. Definitely check out the original video linked in the description down below. Thank you, Skallagrim, for still continuing to be just a super awesome individual. And I can't wait to see what you come up with. Like, man, I can't wait to see what you come up with and how far you're going to go going into the next 10 or so years. Have a good one.